In the long and winding story of ancient Egypt, some figures stand out like towering obelisks against the desert sky. One such ruler was Senusret III. He was a pharaoh of the 12th dynasty, a time known as the Middle Kingdom. This was a period of great revival and strength for Egypt, and Senusret was its formidable architect. He was not a king who was content to simply sit on his golden throne in a peaceful palace. He was a warrior, a builder, and a leader with a vision. Senusret looked at the world around him and saw both threats and opportunities. He understood that to make Egypt truly great, he needed to be strong, decisive, and sometimes utterly ruthless. Senusret III ascended to the throne around 1878 BCE. He inherited a kingdom that was stable but had neighbors who could cause trouble. To the south lay the land of Nubia, rich in gold, ivory, and manpower. To the northeast were the restless tribes of the Levant. Senusret believed that a passive approach was a path to weakness. He wanted to do more than just defend Egypt's borders. He wanted to expand them. He wanted to push them outwards, creating a buffer zone that would protect the heartland of the Nile Valley. This ambition was not just about power for its own sake. It was about securing the resources that would fuel Egypt's economy and ensure its prosperity for generations to come. This pharaoh was a man of immense presence and determination. The statues that survive of him show a face that is different from the idealized portraits of other kings. They depict a man with heavy-lidded eyes, prominent ears, and lines of care etched around his mouth. This was not a god pretending to be a man. This was a man who carried the heavy weight of a kingdom on his shoulders. His expression is one of worldly weariness, but also of profound strength and resolve. It is the face of a ruler who has seen conflict and understands the price of peace. He was a pharaoh who was deeply involved in the affairs of his state, a hands-on leader who led from the front. His reign marked a significant turning point for the Middle Kingdom. Before him, pharaohs had certainly campaigned abroad, but Senusret brought a new level of strategic thinking and permanence to Egypt's foreign policy. He was not interested in temporary raids for loot and glory. He was interested in permanent conquest and control. He reorganized the internal administration of Egypt, reducing the power of the regional governors, the nomarchs, to centralize power firmly in his own hands. This gave him the authority and the resources he needed to launch his ambitious projects, both military and architectural, and to reshape Egypt into a more powerful and unified state than it had been for centuries. Senusret III's primary military focus was the land of Nubia, to the south. This region, corresponding to modern-day Sudan, was a vital source of precious goods. It held the gold mines that Egypt craved, the exotic animal skins, the incense, and the strong soldiers who could be recruited into the Egyptian army. For centuries, Egypt had traded with Nubia, but the relationship was often tense. The powerful kingdom of Kerma was rising in Nubia, posing a potential threat to Egypt's southern frontier. Senusret decided that trade was not enough. He needed to dominate the region completely to secure Egypt's access to these vital resources and neutralize any danger before it could grow. The pharaoh personally led his armies deep into Nubia on several major campaigns. These were not simple marches, they were difficult and dangerous expeditions through a harsh and unforgiving landscape. The Nile River, Egypt's lifeline, had a series of treacherous rapids south of Aswan, known as the cataracts. These rocky sections made it incredibly difficult for large boats to pass. To overcome this, Senusret commanded his men to dig a canal around the first cataract, a remarkable feat of engineering that allowed his military fleet to sail further south than ever before. This demonstrated his practical genius and his unwavering commitment to achieving his goals, no matter the obstacle. The campaigns themselves were brutal and effective. Inscriptions left by the pharaoh boast of his victories. He wrote of burning Nubian villages, seizing their crops and capturing their people. On a monument he erected at the southern border, he left a stark warning for any Nubians who might consider crossing it. He described them in contemptuous terms, calling them weak and cowardly. This was propaganda, of course, designed to project an image of Egyptian invincibility and to intimidate his enemies. He wanted to break the will of the Nubian leaders and ensure they would never again challenge the might of Egypt. His strategy was one of overwhelming force and psychological warfare. Through these repeated military actions, Senusret III pushed Egypt's southern border further than any pharaoh before him. He established a new, heavily fortified frontier at Semna, deep in Nubian territory. This was a clear and unambiguous statement of Egyptian power. He had effectively annexed a huge swathe of land known as Wawat, or Lower Nubia, and placed it under direct Egyptian control. This expansion was not just about bragging rights, it was a strategic masterstroke. It gave Egypt direct access to the gold mines and trade routes, cutting out the middlemen and funneling the immense wealth of Nubia directly into the pharaoh's treasury, fueling a golden age for his kingdom. Conquering territory was one thing, holding it was another. Senusret III was a brilliant strategist who understood that military victory had to be backed up by permanent infrastructure. To secure his newly won lands in Nubia and control the local population, he commissioned one of the most impressive building projects of the ancient world. He ordered the construction of a chain of massive mud brick fortresses along the Nile, stretching from Aswan down to the new border at Semna. These were not simple watchtowers, they were colossal structures designed to withstand a major siege and to project Egyptian authority deep into hostile territory. These forts were marvels of military engineering. Built at strategic points along the river, often on high ground overlooking the water, they were designed for maximum defense. They had towering walls, fortified gateways, dry moats, and projecting bastions from which archers could fire down on any attackers. Inside the walls were entire communities, barracks for soldiers, granaries to store food, workshops for making weapons, and temples for worshipping Egyptian gods. Forts like Buhan, Mirgissa, and Semna were like miniature Egyptian cities planted in the heart of Nubia. They were symbols of permanent occupation, making it clear to everyone that the Egyptians were there to stay. The purpose of these fortresses was twofold. Firstly, they served a vital military function. They housed permanent garrisons of Egyptian soldiers who could patrol the region, put down any local uprisings, and defend the border against any larger attacks from the south. The forts were interconnected, able to signal one another in case of trouble, forming a formidable defensive network. They acted as a wall, preventing Nubians from moving north into Egypt, except under strict Egyptian supervision. A famous decree found at Semna explicitly forbids any Nubian from sailing or traveling north of the fortress, except for the purpose of trade at a specific controlled market. Secondly, the forts were crucial for controlling and managing the economic resources of Nubia. They were administrative centers overseeing the mining of gold and the quarrying of valuable stone. They served as secure trading posts where Egyptian merchants could safely exchange goods for Nubian products. The soldiers in the forts protected the trade caravans and the ships laden with gold, ebony, and ivory as they made their way north to the great cities of Egypt. In this way, the fortresses were not just military bases, they were the engines of the Egyptian economy in the south, ensuring a constant and secure flow of wealth back to the pharaoh. The actions of Senusret III had a profound and lasting impact on Egypt. His successful campaigns and the construction of the Nubian forts brought an unprecedented level of security to the kingdom's southern flank. For centuries, this had been a region of uncertainty and potential conflict. Senusret transformed it into a stable and profitable province of the Egyptian empire. This peace and security allowed the kingdom to flourish. With the borders safe and the threat from Nubia neutralized, Egypt could focus its energies on internal development, trade, and culture, ushering in a period of immense prosperity that defined the height of the Middle Kingdom. The wealth that poured in from the Nubian gold mines was staggering. This influx of gold-funded magnificent building projects throughout Egypt, not just in the south. Temples were expanded, monuments were erected, and the arts flourished. The prosperity was not limited to the pharaoh's court, it trickled down through society, creating a period of stability and well-being for the wider population. Trade with other regions, such as the Levant and Crete, also expanded as Egypt, secure in its power, projected its influence across the ancient world. Senusret's reign turned Egypt into an economic powerhouse, its wealth and influence admired and envied by its neighbors. Senusret's legacy is that of a strong and visionary ruler who fundamentally reshaped his kingdom. By centralizing his own authority and launching ambitious foreign campaigns, He made the pharaoh's power absolute and extended Egypt's influence further than ever before. He was remembered by later generations of Egyptians as one of their greatest kings. Long after his death, he was even worshipped as a god in the Nubian forts he had built, a testament to the immense impact he had on the region. His reign became the benchmark against which future pharaohs measured their own success, a golden age of strength, stability, and imperial power. In the grand tapestry of Egyptian history, Senusret III is a figure of immense importance. He was the warrior pharaoh who secured his nation's borders, the brilliant strategist who locked down his conquests with impenetrable forts, and the wise ruler whose actions brought about an era of peace and fabulous wealth. He found a strong kingdom and left behind a powerful empire. The realistic, careworn face that stares out at us from his statues is the face of a king who shouldered great burdens, but who, through his strength and vision, forged a golden age for his people, leaving a legacy that would echo down the Nile for thousands of years.